So we're going to have a conversation about how to intelligently automate business processes across your company, and I'm certain that the question the gentleman had before will certainly come up again about, what are the benefits of automation and how do you think about what to automate and what happens to the people. But let me allow each of you to first introduce yourselves and say something about what your companies do. Michael, do you want to get us kicked off here?
Sure, thank you. So Mike Setticasi, I handle all our technology alliances at a company called DataRobot. So DataRobot's an automated machine learning platform, and what we really help do is a couple of things. We help democratize within a business doing automated machine learning for business analysts, and then we help data scientists take an automation-first approach if they want to do machine learning in their business.
Fantastic. And Stefan?
Hi, Stefan. I'm the founder of Automation Hero, and we are end-to-end intelligent process automation platform. So we connect to all sorts of systems and data sources, run business logic. But I think the really interesting part of our products, we have embedded deep learning capabilities that now allow us kind of to do the next generation of automation, as we just heard in the panel before. Not kind of the first generation RPA role-based automation, but really cognitive, predictive, NLP, object recognition, images, et cetera, automations. So much more scalable, more complex, and really running autonomous business processes.
So I think the comment you're referring to, for those of you who weren't in the previous session, was that we're right at this interesting cusp where the first generation of RPA is just now really reaching commercial mass market. But right behind it is the second generation of technologies, which both of your companies sort of represent different angles on. I think one of the really interesting things about the panel that we had before was this comment about the democratization, how automation can actually create more opportunity, more accessibility for people. And each of you have a different sort of approach to that, but maybe you can comment maybe with an example of how you make your technology more accessible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're seeing it in the marketplace. We work with a lot of RPA vendors in the marketplace as well to understand how we combine some machine learning and RPA processes. And I think you're 100% correct. We're seeing this push in the market where everybody's jumping into RPA, everybody's building robots and work processes to make it easier. But what we're commonly seeing is that at some point there's a human intervention to make some sort of decision. And that's really where machine learning come in, where we can create a model, you can send the model some data, the model will then come up with a result that'll allow you to take action. So one of the examples that we've seen in the marketplace is really around customer churn. Doesn't really matter what industry you're in, holding on to your customers is always a challenge. And knowing when to do that and be proactive about it is a big task. And so we've seen some of our customers automate that process, where the RPA will take recent transaction data from a customer. They'll send that transaction data to a model. That model will then make a decision, a prediction on whether they think the customer will churn or not. Now, if the model thinks the customer won't churn, great, send an email to the team saying this customer is safe. But if the customer is going to churn, what proactive things you can do? And so that's when RPA can take over again. They can look at the CRM details of the customer, send that to a team, an elite team maybe, that handles customers that are in churn, while also maybe sending like a level 1 marketing message to the customer with a new offer to proactively stop this from churning. So we're just seeing this combination of RPA being really proactive with processes mixed in with a model that can help predict whether a customer will churn, and overall you just get a better result in keeping your customer base.
Mm-hmm. Very powerful. I was with the head of services for a unnamed streaming video service provider.
Sure.
Who was describing exactly this kind of approach and said something that disturbed me a little bit, though, which was that the agent, when I call up to cancel my service, can look at my past viewing history and say, but weren't you really enjoying that show? And by the way, this next season's coming, right? It's like, really, do I want them to know what I'm watching? So, maybe there's some danger there too, which we'll get into some of the ethics of this. Sure. and what the issues are. But Stefan, do you want to talk a little bit about how you democratize this automation capability?
Yeah, absolutely. So look, if you look at the first generation RPA vendors that, by the way, are around since 10 years, and their major achievement in the first 8 years of their life was staying alive, right? In the last 2 years, they totally skyrocketed, maybe 3 years. UiPath, 1 million revenue to 121 months. So it's, I might disagree a little bit with the VCs before, but there's massive traction right now, mostly because reason is economic, environments changing, et cetera. But I think what's really critical, really, for a lot of companies to stay afloat is to make it extremely quick and easy to automate business processes. And if you look at the first generation, they're scripting environments. They glorified Windows macro builders. They're not enterprise ready. It's extremely difficult to, do something simple as getting a Kerberos ticket to run an automation in a certain system with a temporary password. They just grew up as, the Mac has Automator, Windows doesn't have anything, let's build something. And there's actually an enterprise use case around it, and then they stacked on top of that. So I think the reality of RPA, first generation RPA, is companies buy it and then they hire the big guys, right? Accenture, Deloitte, or massive amount of outsourcing around scripting these business processes, and that's totally broken because many of these business processes are very fluid, very dynamic. Every month they change. So I had a panel discussion with the CTO of Nestle, and he said, if 60% of our bots work, we consider this a big achievement. And excuse my German, that's pretty, well, okay, I don't use it a lot. That's pretty bad. So look, what we basically do is it's all point and click. It's a no-code environment. If we talk about agile development, we should do agile development with automation as well. I think the whole deep learning, AI, machine learning piece is way too complicated. Look, guys, this is straightforward. We have neural networks. We stack them on top of each other. You add a few functions in between and a few activation algorithms. I mean, technically, it's really very simple, but the APIs behind, it's getting better, right? But if not sure, anybody wrote TensorFlow code?
Oh, all right.
The first generation, I'm like, geez, what should I do? I shoot myself in the foot here. So it needs to get easier, and Moore's Law will solve a lot of these problems. Now we have hyperparameter optimization, so AI, optimizing AI, and we just need to accelerate that. We need to make that easy also for business users to just say, I have this, and you guys doing a good job with that, right? Here's my problem. Go figure out what the best solution to this is from an algorithmic perspective. And it needs to be as easy as, I don't know, how you sort your pictures on your Mac. And then really, I think we there in the next generation, and then we free up people from mundane, repetitive tasks to actually do what we all like to do, actually put our brain to work. And VC said it nicely, right? There's, in our customers, there are massive challenges to hire qualified people and keep them, because you hire a person with an MBA into an insurance, and by the way, your job 7 hours a day is to click, okay, approve this claim, right? So there are major challenges we need to solve.
So it seems like there's this interesting tension, though, right? Of course, the topic we have here for us is how to intelligently automate business processes. Both of your companies are pushing the envelope in terms of what intelligence means in automating a business process. And so there's complexity that your products introduce in that you're trying to not just be a macro builder, right? You're trying to do much more complex things with data models, machine learning. But you're also trying to democratize it. So you're trying to make it easier for people to do, but you're adding a lot of complexity in what they're able to do. So talk to me a little bit about how that plays out in each of your products. And Michael, we'll go back to you first.
Sure, I agree, and I think that there is, with machine learning and putting models into play, there's always complexity, because doing it is a difficult task, right? If we look at the task of a data scientist, what we believe at DataRobot is a data scientist does 3 things very well. They know their business and their data extremely well. They know how to code in Python or R in order to, put the model into some sort of production. And then they have, either a PhD or some advanced knowledge in statistics to understand what model to apply for what problem, how to tune the model, feature engineering, all those great things. What we're trying to do with the platform is really give a business user that understands the business and the data, the ability to allow a platform like DataRobot to worry about coding in R or Python and understanding exactly what model to choose and how to tune that model to solve that problem. And so really that's the way that we're looking to democratize that for an organization. And I think some of the things you have to be concerned with when you do that is when you give a business user that ability and they're actually going to be making business decisions on the results, you also have to have some guardrails in place, right? You have to have some software that has some understanding around the concepts of overfitting if you're using the wrong data, or perhaps data leakage that could lead into prediction issues. And so that's really where we come into play. And I think the key thing about that is you have to come at it from a data science level. So, our DataRobot, or even models in general, it was created by data scientists who kind of understand those best practices in that process and put that in play in a platform that can kind of protect you from making bad decisions. But the overall democratization of it is extremely important. And I do agree. I'm not sure we'll agree at the level that we're at, but I agree that the way to get everything broader is to make the software easier to use. We saw it in the BI industry. I'm not sure, I might be aging myself, but I was a Crystal Reports user. We saw that industry get swallowed up by Crystal. There was Cognos. There was Hyperion. They all got bought up by the big vendors, and then we saw the Tableaus and the Clicks of the world, right? And those products were just easier to use, and so they got broader adoption. And now we're seeing that market getting, eaten up by Google purchasing Looker and all that. So I totally agree, right? RPA 1.0 will be out there. It'll make big amends, but that next step will just be making it easier and easier to do this process.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds a little bit like you're solving the problem that we heard about when the head of AI for Facebook was on stage recently, just before these sessions, where he was saying, he gave the 5 big problems with scaling AI. One of them was talent, and having to have a different kind of person in the organization to do it. But you're saying, hey, I don't need that anymore. Throw those data scientists out. Get rid of the data scientists. Just buy DataRobot and you're done. You can have any business user go and build these complex models.
Yeah, well, we're not saying it like Gartner, all the big analysts out there saying it will just be impossible. You will not be able to hire enough data scientists to do the machine learning needed in an organization. They're just too few, too expensive, and unless you are a Facebook or a Google and can afford to amass that many, it will be too difficult. So automation is coming whether you like it or not.
Stefan, does that jive with your view and how automation is going to market?
I would even say it way more controversial and say, like, if you study data science today, you're wasting your time. I mean, Moore's Law will just solve that for us. Like the Crystal Report example, pick any kind of technology. Who in the 80s we wrote SQL scripts, then we got Hibernate, and now we have MongoDB. Look at big data. Everybody said, like, oh my God, we will not have enough big data engineers, right? Well, 2019, what is big data anyhow? My iPhone does big data now, by the way. You just point and click things together and you compile it. Exactly the same thing will just happen with AI, TensorFlow, Torch. Pick your favorite model. You will have a nice visual GUI that you just guide through as a business user, and it will compile into whatever you need. And all the problems that we have there, the data prep and feature engineering, basically will go away. I mean, if you ask me what's the most disruptive really about deep learning, that's it. It's amazing about dirty data, right? Just shove more data in and it consistently gets better. And that's the major differentiation to, all the old school support vector machine and decision trees. You can if you ask me, I'm sorry, again, I'm taking a more controversial note, throw them all overboard. Yes, deep learning is way more compute intense, but just try to remember what compute power your iPhone had or your phone had 10 years ago, map that out for 5 years, then why the hell do you go with an algorithm that's maybe a little bit faster right now, if you can go with something as powerful as neural networks, and look, I mean, thousands of layers are normal for really sophisticated use cases these days, and this will just grow. In 10 years, we will just, oh, that was cute, 5,000 layers, ha. So, and I think really this will be solved very quickly. And the software vendors are on the hook to build software that is user-friendly and really adaptable. And who figures that out will be successful, right? So don't make people learn your software, build a software that is easy to use.
So I'm going to ask one more question, then I'm going to ask you all if you have questions. So be thinking about your question. Get ready to raise your hand. So McKinsey issued a report in January 2018 that said, artificial intelligence, the time is now. Harvard Business Review ran an article much more recently, I think December of 2018, that said, if you don't start transforming and adopting AI now, I think actually the quote was repeated on stage yesterday. The companies that adopt AI are going to buy the companies that don't adopt AI, right? That you are going to get left behind. On the one hand, when I hear Facebook talking about what they're doing, I hear computational complexity growing at rates that keep a company as rich as Facebook up at night to worry about how much it costs. Enormous amount of expertise needed. You guys are saying, hey, wait a minute, no, actually companies can jump in and start doing this stuff today without that complexity and cost. Is there something fundamentally different between what they're talking about doing and what you're talking about doing?
If I may, so our business customers not trying to do facial recognition on the whole planet. That's maybe the differentiation. So look, if you run, as you said, right, a churn model on the last 10 years of your business, I mean, the most we talk a few gigabytes, that trains in a couple hours on your laptop these days. So again, yes, Facebook, Google, again, yeah, if you want to be I should be careful. Anybody from Facebook here? I grew up in East Germany with secret police, so, like, a lot of parallels.
There was a conversation earlier about whether they were a force for good.
So of course, if you do on that scale, that amount of image processing and what have you, yes, you need this massive amount of GPU farm. But I mean, we have companies that do 100 million plus ROIs on a single machine with a totally normal CPU. Right? What are they doing? They do reinforcement learning on ad bidding, and they have a massive amount of ad budget, and they're just consistently improving that. And in the back end, they do with a second reinforcement learning, inventory optimization. And these models just, OpenAI 5, if someone knows that, does a similar thing. They basically just, my inventory at this point is all profit, so I can be more aggressive here. And really, completely have an autonomous customer acquisition process that runs 10x more efficient than anything manual before. And again, it was a single machine, right? So again, of course, if I'm Facebook, I have to maybe make these statements to sound really interesting for people who want to work there. But I think you can do a lot of really cool things with what is here and available and maybe in your pocket already.